Hey everyone, welcome back to the Balcony Boys podcast, episode 2. Christian Andrew here.
What's up?
So last time we sort of just walked right into the podcast without really giving a introduction to really ourselves, I guess, and sort of what the reasoning is behind doing this podcast. Andrew and I are avid moviegoers, clearly, as you can tell from the last episode. We sort of always just talked about, doing a podcast, having an outlet to sort of discuss our thoughts, which was mentioned briefly in the last episode, and just really have something to always go back to and look on, just not just purely for entertainment, but just to kind of keep track of our thoughts and how we feel on certain movies and whatnot. Today we thought it'd be a good idea to do an Andrew top 10 list, which he's going to go through his bottom five movies.
Bottom five.
10 through 6, and sort of just discuss what he likes about them, why he likes them, how they're ranked, and I will give my input, try to feed in as much as I can, and then in a later episode I'm going to get into my 10 through 6, and we'll do the same thing. So I guess you want to start, number 10?
Yeah, alright, so number 10, bottom of my list, but not to say that it's not fantastic, or should I say excellent. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, 1989. Features Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter as... well, I guess in that case, Ted and Bill. Yeah, Ted and Bill. Basically, they're trying to complete or at least just pass their history project, or else they'll flunk out of high school, and Ted will get sent to military camp in, I think, Alaska.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
By his dad, who's very strict. Obviously, they're not good at school. They're not the smartest guys in the world. But they have a band called Wild Stallions, which is supposedly the band that's going to unite the world in world peace. And without giving too much away, that comes in a later movie. But for now, just this one, 1989, one movie's out. The way they do it is a guy named Rufus from the future comes back while they're sitting outside the Circle K, which is their convenience store. And he tells them that the Wild Stallions are going to unite the universe in glorious peace. But they need to pass their history project, obviously. And the way they do that is Rufus gives them a time-traveling phone booth in which they go back in time through many historical periods, and they pick up historic figures and bring them back to modern-day 1989 to help them with their project. Some of those characters include Socrates, the philosopher, Abraham Lincoln, obviously President of the United States, Joan of Arc, who I think is French, right? She's French?
Yeah, I don't know.
French.
A huge history buff, but...
Aiden would know.
Yeah,
Aiden would know.
Probably know.
Napoleon and Genghis Khan was another one.
Beethoven, too.
Beethoven.
Beethoven.
Was it Beethoven or Mozart?
Mozart, I think, was in the most recent one.
Was he?
Yes. Beethoven,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's Beethoven. Actually, he's credited in the movie I'm seeing right here as Beethoven.
Beethoven.
Not Beethoven, Beethoven.
Okay.
As they lovingly call him, because they're not smart.
Yeah.
They also call
Beethoven.
Socrates Socrates, which I think is...
Socrates.
Yeah, Socrates. So, pretty much what I love about this movie is that it's what I wrote down in my notes, quintessential 80s innocence. Right? So it's not this ultra serious, like, focus really hard on the cinematic qualities of the movie. It's just like, it's really lighthearted. It's funny. There's great music. I mean, not great music from the Wild Stallions because they don't know how to play the guitars, but the soundtrack and everything is great. And the second one is, the soundtrack for the second movie I think is almost even better. They have a track from Megadeth on there.
Okay.
Called, nice. I think it's called Go to Hell. I have the CD at my house.
Yeah.
I flipped out when I found it at a yard sale one day.
Yep.
Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, they hit it off immediately at the auditions. They became like best friends just like that. Talking about, I think, theater maybe and motorcycles. I think they both rode motorcycles. So, I mean, immediately they were great friends, which I think played into, how well they did in the movie, because it's absolutely incredible. And one thing that I always talk about in time-traveling movies, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about this before, is that time travel is such a difficult point to work with.
Yeah. Because
the smallest thing you do today, or I guess yesterday, can affect 10 years in the future. Like, Bill and Ted, nobody cares. Like, Abraham Lincoln goes to their high school and gives a speech, and nobody cares that it's Abraham Lincoln. And like the scene when they're in the
scene's great. Yeah.
Right, the mall scene when like Joan of Arc is teaching the aerobics class and Genghis Khan is breaking up the sporting goods store.
This movie really had an impact on Andrew and I so much so that we were Bill and Ted last Halloween. I think had great costumes.
And maybe I can put a picture of that up there.
Yeah, it's on my Instagram, one of my posts. And our buddy Kyle, too, did it along with you as well. And, just funny, it's just like you were saying, it's very it's a lighthearted comedy, and it just works.
Yeah. So the scene that I really like, again with the time travel implications, is they're in the police station with Ted's dad, and they say something like, "We need the keys to get into the jail cell."
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, "Why don't we just remember to use the phone booth to go back in time to hide the keys right under this rock?" And then they find the keys immediately. But if you remember earlier in the movie, the keys were missing. His dad couldn't find it, which means they went back in time and moved it. And it was just so funny. It's so stupid. It's
logic's just thrown out of the
window,
and it just works.
Exactly. It's little details like that just make this movie it's just an all-around good time, low commitment to watching. You can, watch it for 10 minutes, go away for 10 minutes, come back, and you're fine. That being said, I don't recommend doing that. I recommend sitting down and watching the whole movie because it's amazing. And Bill and Ted are, endearing characters. I mean, especially with the newest one that just came out, I think, last year.
Yeah.
Bill and Ted Face the Music. Did you see that one yet?
I did, yeah.
All right, it was a great movie.
It was good.
I loved it. They're just iconic characters, 1980s
and it's almost, too, it's one of those film universes where it's got, a huge cult following. I don't think everyone's seen Bill and Ted, but they've definitely heard of it, and they, know that type of following.
Exactly.
And can at least kind of appreciate that aspect of it.
Exactly. I think I'd classify it as somewhat of a cult movie because, I mean, like you said, we dressed up like them for Halloween.
Right.
I think they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Dave was Rufus, our friend Dave. He kind of had the Rufus look going on, so he put on a long coat and some sunglasses. He looked like Rufus, George Carlin.
He's bald, which helps.
Right, that too.
Fine.
And George Carlin in this film is great too. He's not quite as vulgar or aggressive as he is on his comedy skit, but in this movie he plays the mentor role.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Not quite, but kinda. Pushes them in the right direction.
Right.
And the scene outside the Circle K where they meet Bill and Ted from the future. They're like, "If you really are us from the future, what number are you thinking of right now?"
69.
Right, and then they do the air guitars, which is something that my friends, that not just myself and Christian, but other friends of ours,
we all do. Just look at each other and just do the air guitar.
Like the air guitar.
It's great.
It's amazing.
It's a movie that sticks with you, and it's a movie you could go back to, and watch as well. I didn't. I liked the second one, enjoyed it, but I just think the first one, it's a special place, in our hearts, and we like it a lot.
The second one is great because the second one introduces death, of course.
Right.
And they have that one point where they go to hell for the first time, and they say something about Beelzebub. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of earlier. I mean, they do the thing with Beelzebub, but earlier on they see death up on the hill when they first die, and I think Bill goes to Ted. He's like, "Hey Ted, don't fear the Reaper," and he does the air guitar, and their idiotic personalities are just the most fun to watch.
Yep.
Because they're just so stupid. There's no other way to put it. They're so stupid.
Yeah.
But they're so funny, and they still land the princess babes.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Maybe because they're as stupid as they are. But the third movie suggests otherwise. Third movie suggests
the Iron Maiden.
Excellent! Right. And another one of my favorite parts is that they use their extensive knowledge, their one thing that they know a lot about, which is rock music. They use that to their advantage. Obviously, they make jokes about it. And when they meet Socrates for the first time, Bill's like, "Oh, Ted, philosophize with him." Because obviously it's ancient Greece. Nobody speaks English. English didn't even exist, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no.
Again, Aiden would know.
Yeah.
And he Ted picks up the sand and he quotes Kansas and he's like, "All we are is dust in the wind." And Socrates thinks it's like the absolute greatest thing he's ever heard. Yeah. So maybe they would be considered smart in some time period, just not ours.
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyway, unbelievable movie. Makes you very happy when it's over. It's a good time, feel good movie. Fantastic. So for this next one, we're gonna go for number 9 here. Let me just pull it up real quick while I introduce it. We're talking about Captain America 2: The Winter Soldier. And this movie is my favorite in the MCU. I know it's your favorite in the MCU.
By far, yeah.
I think that this movie is just absolutely incredible for a number of reasons. And I think this is, like we said in the last one, 2014, right around the time that Marvel started to get, as one of my friends put it very well, cookie cutter. Thank you, Maya. And this one wasn't. This one was very unique because at this point in time prior to this, Marvel had still been doing character-driven movies. And I know we don't have to beat this to death because we just talked about it for an hour. Yeah. But their character exploration and character drives were fantastic. And that's what made the movies so powerful in their standing in this wide connected universe where you could just easily be overlooked as another throwaway movie. But Captain America 2, coming off of Captain America 1, where he's, a man lost in time, this one is certainly a Captain America movie. It 100% focuses on that character and revolves around that character, but at the same time, it delves into so many others and explores so many others. You have the exploration of Black Widow, which, again, we don't need to beat this to death, but I think Captain America 2 does a better job exploring Black Widow than Black Widow.
Oh, totally.
And you get other characters like Sam. Introduction of Sam Wilson, the Falcon, who later becomes Captain America. Sorry if you didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but you should. You also get a little bit of Nick Fury. I mean, just a little bit, because he, fakes his own death, where he has, the lightsaber Easter egg kind of thing. Oh, when the car flips over, and turns it on, cuts his way out. And another thing I love about this one, that a lot of Marvel movies don't do very well, for reasons that, this one gets kind of a pass, but this one really gives an incredible characterization of the villain.
Yeah.
Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. Also Hydra to an extent, Hydra/S.H.I.E.L.D. and how they infiltrated and how they've been running the thing since, post-World War II.
Personally, that was my, favorite aspect of the Winter Soldier was the realization of, they're working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and they believe that this is the corporation people that there's nothing wrong with it. And the Avengers, they're the ones controlling the whole mission. And then you find out all these, things that happen with the infiltration of Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. and that awesome scene in the base when, what's his name?
When they're talking to Zola on the computer?
Yeah, that scene's awesome. I love that scene. And it's just, and obviously, I'll let you continue, but just the realization for Steve realizing that Bucky never died, and then Black Widow has a connection to him, and everything just fits in so great. Yeah. And it was really well thought out by the Russos that directed this. I believe their first film, right?
In the MCU.
In the MCU.
Yeah.
And it just, the every scene just was so well shot, so well thought out. Mm-hmm. The fight choreography.
That was my next note.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It just had a different feel up to that point in the MCU. Yeah. For me going back and, I was not a day one watcher as you were, but just going from beginning to end of the MCU, and when you get to the Winter Soldier, it just has a different feel.
Yeah.
And it just, like I said, everything fits together so well in this movie. And it's just, you cannot take your eyes off it the whole time.
I remember one night, actually, I came home from dinner at my grandmother's house, and it was kind of late. It was 10 o'clock, which for me is late, you know that.
Yeah.
And I just sat down on my couch for a couple minutes, turned on the TV, and I was like, oh, Winter Soldier's on, I'll throw it on. Because, even at the time, I adored this movie. And it was just getting to the point where they're on the overpass, which is part of my next note here. And that's maybe, 30, 40 minutes or so into the movie. I don't know exactly, but that's my favorite scene in the movie.
Yep.
When the overpass scene, and I ended up watching the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it
was up until,
whenever a movie that you've seen you go back to, or really I guess any movie but you kind of have to, once you jump in a movie, you in my opinion, a new movie I'd have to watch beginning to end. I couldn't get sucked into a movie that I haven't seen, but movies that you like and you see that can suck you in, you can go back and watch it and just pick up wherever you left off. Is just that just to me screams like great film.
Yeah.
And I'd be the same way. I had seen it before, but I remember one time at my mother's house, she was watching it. I think it was a little further ahead in the overpass scene. And same thing. I just sat on the couch and watched it for another hour and a half.
You really, like you said, you just can't take your eyes off of
it.
I have written down here the choreography for fighting in this movie is unrivaled in the MCU. I think you might disagree with the second part. I put maybe the close second is Shang-Chi in certain fight scenes. Like, right. I know you love the bus.
What was going well with Shang-Chi in the beginning half.
Right, yeah, okay. But the choreography in this movie is amazing. The overpass scene is just unbelievable. The action and the heart-pounding suspense of them just driving down the road, and all of a sudden, bang, the Winter Soldier jumps on top of the car.
And that was no secret.
Yeah.
Inside joke.
Yeah. Just rips the door off and starts shooting up the highway, and don't do that yourselves, but just start shooting up the highway, and they have to jump down from the overpass, and the Hydra soldiers, and the Winter Soldier, and then after, he's hunting down Natasha, and he gets distracted, you finally get the first real hands-on fight between Cap and the Winter Soldier, and they're just going at it, and they're, the pocket knives are going everywhere, and the shield, and Bucky is just going straight for the kill. He like cuts through an entire van, if you remember that part, and then the mask comes off, and the way that this film is shot at this point is when the mask comes off, this high-paced floor-to-ceiling action stops immediately. And you get this, like, really slow turn of the Winter Soldier. And obviously, like, I knew who it was. You maybe knew who it was. My mother had no idea who it was. But, I mean, for me, someone who reads the comics and knows the characters, like, obviously I know it's Bucky, but you feel the absolute weight of Captain America going, Bucky? And then the Winter Soldier going, who the hell is Bucky? Because, I mean, Captain America, like I said, he's already a man out of time.
Right.
But then to see your friend that fell off of the train in World War II come back, and he's trying to kill you, and he has no idea who you are, he has no idea who he is, he has no idea where he is or what he's doing or why he's doing it.
And that's another point, too, that, great thing you brought up, is that internal conflict Cap deals with from that point on to the rest of the MCU. And again, something that I loved about Civil War is that he never gave up on Bucky. And that's something else we get, a discussion for another day, but really just that's when it started. He figured out, well, Bucky's clearly survived. He's the Winter Soldier, and it's just that realization in his face. And Chris Evans, just unbelievable acting right there in that scene. And from that point on, it's just that another internal conflict, internal battle that he has to deal with. And it's just great. It's so well done. And I loved how you put it. It just goes from like 100, people say 0 to 100. That was the opposite. Went to 100 to 0 in a second.
Flat
and
stop.
Oh my God, it was incredible. And just like I said, I love that aspect of Winter Soldier with his internal conflict. Just everyone kind of thinks Bucky's lost. He's a lost soul. He's a lost cause. He's done. But it's like Cap never gives up.
Well, you even see that at the very end, right? When they're in the helicarrier.
The helicarrier, yeah.
And
that famous line.
Yeah, they're fighting not to the death, but while Bucky's fighting to kill, Cap is fighting to subdue.
I'm not gonna fight you, Bucky, because you're my friend. And
right.
Then he says, you're my mission.
Well, the important part about that line, even more than the line itself, is the fact that line happens after Captain America puts the chip in the helicarrier to foil Hydra's plans. And Bucky, I mean, all he's got in his mind is kill, kill, kill. And he's fighting. Cap drops his shield and it falls into the lake below him. He puts his guard down 100%. And he says, like you said, I'm not going to fight you. You're my friend. And Bucky's absolutely just wailing on Captain America. And he goes, you're my mission. And then Captain America obviously responds back, face all bruised, bloodied. He goes, then finish it, because I'm with you till the end of the line. And that quote, calling back from earlier in this film, earlier in Captain America 1.
But it was earlier in this film, right before that scene, when it shows something had happened with Steve's parents, I believe.
I think it was their funeral.
Before the super serum. And Bucky is trying to just be there for his friend. And he says, we can sleep on the couch like we used to. And then he's like, no. And he's going through stuff, obviously. And he puts his hand on his shoulder and says, you can't get rid of me. I'm with you to the end of the line, pal. And that obviously stuck with Cap. And it's just...
But that's the line that stopped Bucky from throwing that last punch.
Right.
Like, if I remember correctly, the shot is actually low angle, so it's looking up at Bucky, and he's got his fist pulled back. He's ready to throw another punch, and then the floor breaks.
Yeah.
But if it weren't for Bucky, who pulled Cap out of the lake at the end, Cap would probably have drowned.
That snapped him out of it, and just I don't know. Maybe it's an oversimplification, but I just, that stuck with me, and I just like
I don't think it's oversimplification. I think
not for me. I'm just saying I could see how other people that maybe are not as invested, intrigued in the MCU as, say, you and I are.
Right.
But that just, again, just unbelievable storytelling, and just to fit that in, and just the acting from Sebastian Stan and obviously Chris Evans, it works so perfectly. It really does. And that is really like a humanizing moment with Cap right there. It is.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Especially with Bucky, too.
And Bucky as well, exactly. And it's just that, I love that storyline, which, again, continued to evolve throughout the MCU. I loved, and I kind of wish we got more of that, but the Winter Soldier, it gave you, I think, everything it could with their relationship. And it was just like I said, it just everything just fit together so well in that movie. It was so well thought out. And one could argue a lot of movies that followed that sort of had that same like gel and glue to them, and fitting in different storylines to kind of make them fit. But I think Winter Soldier is really the first to introduce multiple characters from different storylines and center it around, obviously, Hydra and the Winter Soldier. And then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the Winter Soldier did it so naturally.
Right.
Is the difference.
And it was the first to do it, I'd say, so that's why probably it sticks with you more.
Yeah. First is almost always better than the sequel. Not always, but almost. The last thing I want to say about this movie is just a really quick note. You don't even have to talk about it too much. I think it's one of the best depictions of what I think a superhero would be. In that it's working with, but not for the authorities. Because the movie begins, Captain America, 100% an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. As the movie progresses, he finds out that S.H.I.E.L.D.
been infiltrated by Hydra for years, obviously.
Right. And it might not be all its craft activity. And maybe fighting for something on your own is better and more beneficial than fighting for the ideals of somebody else.
Exactly.
And I think that can be echoed in almost any superhero, not just Captain America. It just happens that this film is, Captain America. Like I said, beginning of the movie, he is a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. End of the movie, he is the loudest voice in the argument to dismantle it.
Yep.
Because it just doesn't work.
Such a good way
to an extent, it works, but to an extent, it doesn't. Yeah. And Captain America, look at Batman, for example, right? In no way, shape, or form is he an officer of the Gotham City Police Department. No. But he works with Commissioner Gordon, right? Which is, it's great. I think that's what superheroes tend to do. Because once you put rules and regulations on them, it doesn't work. But anyway. Number 8 on my list is one that I was over the moon to see. I know you haven't seen it yet. It is Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's a 4 hours and change commitment. So it's a very long one. It's split up into chapters, so you could watch it chapter to chapter if you want. I obviously don't recommend that because it breaks the flow, I think. And that goes for any movie. If you stop halfway and continue it later, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel the same. Obviously, there was that movie in 2017 that we're not going to compare it to at all because it's not the same movie. It's the theatrical version of Justice League, which was absolutely cut up and butchered by Warner Brothers and executives over there. This movie came out 2021, streaming exclusively to HBO Max. I believe now it's on Blu-ray. It's great because I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise that the theatrical cut turned out the way it did. Because if that movie was good, if that movie worked out to the way that Warner Brothers wanted it to, they never would have told Zack Snyder to go finish it on HBO. And even if they let Zack Snyder finish it in 2017, it still would have only been 2 hours because Warner Brothers doesn't like to go over that. We get it on HBO Max. There's little to no restrictions. You can swear. There's blood. There's violence. There's everything, almost everything that you would get in an R-rated movie. And it's 4 hours. I mean, I was loving it. I was eating it up when I was watching it. I think the 4-hour runtime, while it is a little bit long, allows for every single member of the Justice League to have their moment in the sun. You know, they all have their moment to shine, to show why it's important that they're on the team, but not only why they're on the team, why they're in the movie. Because let's face it, right? Zack Snyder, when he was making this team, he didn't have to choose Cyborg. He could have kept Cyborg on the Teen Titans and put in, like, Blue Beetle or Booster Gold, right? So by showing that each character has their own individual significance, even though those characters don't have solo movies, which I will admit probably would have been a good idea, especially if you're playing catch up to Marvel, it allows for these characters to connect with the audience in a way that lets the audience know that these characters are not just space fillers, right? So obviously Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they don't need moments as big as the other characters because they had Batman vs Superman, they had Wonder Woman, they had Man of Steel. So those characters, good. Someone like The Flash, there was a scene at the end, and I don't want to give too much away because you need to watch it. There's a scene at the end where the Flash gives himself a little pep talk, and he realizes his potential, and he does what Flash does and runs. And that kind of saves the day. It's fantastic. Cyborg has the scene towards the beginning where he's going through, I forget if it's his memory banks or the mother boxes or something, but he transfers the money into that woman's bank account, the woman that's broke, and she's putting her kid through school, and she looks like she just won the lottery. It's incredible acting from that woman. Unfortunately, I don't know her name. I apologize about that, but that scene gives Cyborg his chance to shine. Who else we got? Aquaman. Aquaman kind of, goes into it in his own solo film in 2018. However, this movie still follows that idea of he doesn't quite know if he's Atlantean, he doesn't quite know if he's human, he doesn't really feel like he fits, all he does is go to the bar and drink. And eventually he becomes a team player, and that arc is his own in and of itself. And it's just absolutely fantastic. It allows for the characters to have a deeper meaning, to be not just words on a script. They're fully personified by the actors and the quality that these actors bring to the role. Another point in the same way is that these characters, by having them flushed out so properly in this world, you get a better way to look at secondary characters, like Wonder Woman's mother, Hippolyta, who's spending her entire life guarding this mother box from Steppenwolf. Get Lois Lane with the scene with Martha Kent, who may or may not be Martha Kent in the scene. And Lois has this realization that, just because the love of her life is dead doesn't mean that she needs to be wrapped up in her own self-pity and hermitness. Mm-hmm. And it gets Lois back out into the world. You even have Cyborg's father, who is totally caught up at the death of his wife and the possible death of his son, that he devotes his entire life to making sure his son can feel somewhat normal. But, with 95% of your body is cybernetics, how can you? Mm-hmm. And that's the struggle that Cyborg's father deals with every single day, is that his son resents him for making him look the way he does. And even a little bit of Alfred, which most of it came in Batman vs Superman, Jeremy Irons' Alfred, which I think Jeremy Irons does an unbelievable job as like the tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic, cynical mm-hmm. Alfred. But this one, even so, he has certain scenes with Wonder Woman, Diana Prince, explaining how she and the League and the purpose of the League is what's giving Bruce Wayne this newly found purpose for not only living but continuing as Batman and Bruce Wayne simultaneously. I think the character development in this movie is just absolutely phenomenal. It's unbelievable. Steppenwolf as a villain becomes, I said we weren't going to compare it, but I'm going to compare it just this once. Steppenwolf in this film, as opposed to the 2017 version, is absolutely a full-on juggernaut. He absolutely just demolishes anything in his way. And he does it with a purpose of getting home back to Apocalypse. He's been banished for reasons that you'll find out. But he's like, if I take this planet, if I get these mother boxes back to Darkseid, he will welcome me back to Apocalypse. And he doesn't care who he has to go through. Doesn't care how many women, children, civilians he's got to slaughter. He just does it. I also think the design of Steppenwolf in this one It's like a kinetic kind of armor.
Yeah, I've seen that in different shots. It
Right.
looks way better already.
It's so much better than just like the chrome spray paint that he got in 2017. I should say right now that I walked out of the theater in 2017 absolutely adoring that movie.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. I can't give much input because I haven't, obviously, I should have seen it by now. I just haven't. Yeah, I really enjoyed Justice League when I first saw it. And then I think I wasn't really, I guess, in tune to everything that was going on at the time. And I think Warner Brothers, if I'm not mistaken, kind of kept a lot of that stuff under the wraps between what was going on with them and Zack Snyder.
I think it was Zack Snyder that ended up exposing most of it, or at least people
but
that were working on the film.
At the time,
at the time, 2017, we knew.
Right, it was almost like Zack Snyder kind of stopped filming, stopped shooting, and Joss Whedon took over. And then I remember watching Justice League, I think a year or two later, after the realization that all this...
After the rose-colored glasses
right,
come off.
all this came up that it really wasn't his movie. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, after, this movie kind of sucks. Like, I don't know how I like it. I think it was just the excitement I had to finally get a Justice League movie, because as I mentioned in the previous episode, we both, I think, are just suckers for DC superheroes, and we love the MCU.
I'll admit it, I really am.
We just love, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, all of them, Flash. They're all just great. They're more, I guess, more intriguing, more entertaining. I get you could obviously argue more powerful, but yeah, I think that was my main rationale, be liking Justice League as much as I did. But then going back, realizing it wasn't Zack Snyder's movie, I'm like, you can tell in certain scenes which director did what and how much was cut out, why it was cut out. It's just, there's such a disconnect.
It's like two movies cut and paste together.
And from your like 10-minute review you just did, and talking about how well he developed his characters and giving more time and giving the more deserved backgrounds to these different individuals, you explaining that honestly did a better job than Joss Whedon did. Seriously.
Thank you.
It just kind of further it makes me want to watch this movie even more, and I'm gonna get to it.
Tell me when you do, because I'll come watch it again.
Yeah, but it just and just from the shots I've seen of the movie and the retakes and everything, and Zack Snyder's vision and view on the film, it looked so much better than 2017's version. It just did.
I think the first line of my full review I did for this movie was artistic vision beautifully realized.
Right.
Because like I said, even if he had finished it in 2017, it still would have been restricted by time. Right. And granted, we're probably not, breaks my heart, probably not going to get the sequels that it deserves. Yeah. It's still that 4 hours of exactly what Zack Snyder wanted to do. There was even a little bit of reshoots that went into it for a couple months. I think it's either the very last scene or the very second to last scene was a reshoot, and you can kind of tell because Ben Affleck looks a little different than he did in the rest of the movie, but we let that slide because reshoots and everything. The last couple of things I wanted to say about it is that differentiating itself from the Marvel movies, there's a very distinct lack of comedy. The only comedy that you really get from it is from characters like the Flash, obviously, because Barry Allen is a comedic character. You have
to have, in a very serious setting of a film, and in any movies that have like dire situations, even, you always have to have a comedic relief, right?
Yeah, of course.
And Barry Allen, I think, even in Justice League, he had some great moments and lightheartedness that you need in these types of movies. But again, it did seem like 2017's version had a lot like that. I know you hate that dumb Batman take when he's like, I'm definitely bleeding. I mean, that's the
worst.
Right, that's just not Batman. That was just stupid. But yeah, it's you need like I'm trying to say, you need a solid comic relief in any movie.
Right. And that comedy that the Flash brings to the table is further exemplified and, let's say, bounces off of very well characters like Aquaman or Cyborg, who are still sort of the lighthearted feel, I guess. Right. Whereas someone like Batman is very serious, and Wonder Woman is still serious, not as much. And the last thing I want to say about it is Superman. Henry Cavill's Superman, I think, is like top-notch casting from DC. I think that in this film, the scene where he's beating the crap out of the Justice League because he was just brought back to life, like you just woke him up from sleep, and he's just wailing on them. You know, the look on his face that he gives.
I put that. He's just wailing on him.
He's wailing on him. There's not, and Batman is like standing in the back like a scared little girl, like he knows he's coming for him because, you know, Superman thinks that Batman's the one that killed him, and when he wakes up, he's all angry. But Batman obviously can't do anything against Superman. I'll admit it right now. But he's just like standing there in the background of the field, and Superman, he's like, yeah, the Flash, no, gone. Cyborg, gone. Aquaman, gone. Wonder Woman headbutts her out of existence.
One thing I need to know, because I'm thinking of it, a thing I still liked in Justice League is when, I don't know if he's like choking Batman out or holding him or something, but he says something like, "You couldn't let me die," or something like that, and is that in this movie, or?
I don't know if the exact line is, but that scene is the same, where they're fighting in front of the monument.
So that's a Zack Snyder shot in the 2017 Justice League, right? Because that was awesome.
But I mean, like the look on Batman's face. Ben Affleck, I think, is my favorite Batman, which is, we can talk about that another day, but he's my favorite Batman, and he's just standing there like, what the hell am I going to do? This mad, angry, back from the dead Kryptonian is coming for me, and there's literally nothing I can do about it.
Which is really his own undoing.
Exactly. But the way that Superman just mows down the Justice League, and, you know, you get to the final fight with Steppenwolf, and Superman comes in, and it's like, dude, this could have been a Superman movie. Like, Superman could handle the armies of Apocalypse by himself. He absolutely wails on Steppenwolf, and the scene, you'll know it when you see it. I don't want to tell you exactly, but the scene where he comes in, and just the way he enters the final fight, it's just like, it warms my heart, really, because it's almost exactly what I think Superman should be. And the very final note on this movie, my God, the black Superman suit is sexy as hell.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they cut that out of 2017. I think that was an incredibly poor decision, because black suit Superman is one of my favorite iterations of the character.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it was a bitterness Warner Brothers had, and who knows what the hell went on. But from DC's perspective, I think Warner Brothers has been pretty much in the wrong 90% of the time when it comes to giving their directors creative freedom. And
I think they might be getting a little better about it in modern movies.
Slowly, yeah, and I think they did it right with Zack Snyder and gave him, you know, insane leeway to make a freaking 4-hour movie of his complete vision of what always should have been. Yeah. And who knows, you know, you're talking 2017, they clearly had an idea for building that universe.
Yeah.
If we got that movie then, it's like, who knows where it would be now with different, and it just sucks to think about, because like you said, I think it's true. Unfortunately, I think we're not going to see anything branch off from this, maybe with individual movies. But
we're not going to get the sequels that Zack Snyder releases storyboards for.
No.
And as we were talking, I'm sorry, I just thought of one final thing, quick line. The fact that we get to hear Batman drop an F-bomb made the entire movie worth it for me, above all else. But anyway, you'll see that when you watch the movie. Incredible. Number 7 on my list, we've got kind of a departure, because I don't like romance movies. I don't really like comedies unless they're very specific kind of comedies. We've got Moonstruck, has Cher, Nick Cage. Nick Cage, all jokes aside,
I love Nicolas Cage.
I know. All jokes aside, because he's kind of become like a B-movie actor in the last few years, I genuinely think Nick Cage is one of my favorite actors. This movie, directed by Norman Jewison, this movie perfectly depicts the Italian-American family and their lifestyle. I've been growing up in an Italian-American household for my entire life. I've been going over to my grandmother's house, who is an off-the-boat Italian. This film, Moonstruck, gets the details just right. Right down to the little plastic fruit magnets on the refrigerator that don't hold anything up. They're on my grandmother's refrigerator. They're on all my aunts and uncles' refrigerators. Everyone. I don't know what they're for. I don't know why they put them there. They don't hold anything up, but it's there. It's in the movie. It's on my grandmother's refrigerator. I am not even joking. I think that Nick Cage and Cher have this incredible personality in, this kind of like love-hate relationship that they begin with. And you haven't seen Moonstruck, right?
No.
So this is all new to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, quick synopsis, Cher is getting married to Danny Aiello's character, Johnny Camerari, and he's leaving for Italy to go visit his dying mother. And he says, I need you to talk to my brother. And she goes, I didn't know you had a brother. And she's like, oh, we haven't talked in a while. I just need you to talk to him and invite him to the wedding. So she goes to talk to his brother, Ronnie Camerari, who's Nick Cage. And she finds him in the basement of a bakery baking bread. And that scene, oh my God, that scene is the best in the entire movie. It's more or less a monologue from Nicolas Cage explaining why he hates his brother and why he hates himself and why he hates living and why he hates making bread and why he hates working every day and why he hates everything. It's just amazing. And he does that whole, I lost my hand, I lost my bride. And it's just, it's a line I quote all the time with some other friends who've seen the movie. I'm sure I'll mention it with you after you watch the movie. That scene makes the entire movie for me.
It just seems like a very relatable personal film that you really just it hits home with you.
Well, because of mostly because of the Italian lifestyle and how Cher's Cher's mother is so involved in almost everything, and Cher's father is a plumber who's basically like a con man, right? Like
yeah.
He's cheating on his wife, so it gives that like extra layer of awkwardness to when Cher and Nick Cage go to the opera.
Yep.
And she sees her father and his girlfriend, and her father goes, "That's not your fiance," and Cher goes, "Well, that's not my mother." And they have like the New York accents too, so it's even funnier. It's just amazing. It's so not even lighthearted, but it's just such an easy movie to watch. And like I said, I don't like romance movies. I think they're all, more or less pretty stupid. But this one, it's just so endearing. And I mean, maybe it's because Nick Cage is one of my favorite actors. Olympia Dukakis, who plays Rose, Cher's mother, she is so much of like this deadpan personality in terms of like every time she asks, she's like, why do men chase women? Right? Like that kind of personality. Which is like, it's so counteractive to her husband's, to Cosmo's character. Cosmo is Cher's father. And then there's the grandfather that lives upstairs with the 6 dogs that just, like walks out of the apartment. On the aisle, and he just doesn't talk to anybody, and he's just like, whenever he walks by somebody. Because there are people I don't want to talk to, and I do the same thing. It's fantastic. There's not much more to say about it than Nick Cage and Cher are a combo for the cinematic ages. It's just amazing. I have the Blu-ray, the Criterion Collection Blu-ray, if you ever want to watch it. Coming up to the last one on my list for right now, number 6, absolute juggernaut blockbuster, Jurassic Park, 1993, Steven Spielberg classic. It's I wrote here, quote, a cinematic classic from start to finish. I don't have one bad thing to say about this movie.
Is it in Andrew's 6-star club?
Yeah, it's in my 6-star club. Just a step above 5. But this movie is amazing. From the very beginning, when Alan Grant is like threatening the kid with the Velociraptor claw, and he's like, they'll slit your guts out while you're still breathing or something. To the point where they get to the island, and the scene where they first encounter a dinosaur, and you have the score playing in the background, it's like the viewer can, and this is going to sound like really cliche, but it's almost like the viewer can feel this sense of childish wonder when Alan Grant is just staring at the dinosaur and his jaw drops to the floor, and then he goes over and hugs a dinosaur and smells it and licks it, and I don't think he licks it, but you get the idea. It's just amazing. And then it's everything you want in a classic blockbuster. You have a good story, good characters, great actors, on top of the fact that it's a visual feast.
Oh yeah, even in today's standard, that the effects in that movie still hold up today. Yeah, really well. I mean, obviously, they've come a long way since, but it's like that was my thing watching it. I'm like, man, like a lot of these dinosaurs look very realistic. I'm like, so I just go back to 1993 and I'm like, people sitting in the theaters watching it must have just been mesmerized.
You can only imagine what's going through their head.
And that scene and just the score again with anytime you have Steven Spielberg and John Williams, I mean it's hard to be a miss of a movie.
Right,
it really
exactly.
is. And yeah, it's just unbelievable cast too. Jeff Goldblum,
Laura Dern,
Laura Dern,
Sam Jackson, who I
Yep.
always forget is in that movie for some reason until
too.
they start talking about it.
You'll probably think this is a sin. I've only seen this movie twice, which is probably not enough.
It's passable,
but yeah, it's just I thoroughly enjoy it. I don't think not as much as you. You know, everyone has different top 10 lists, but there's really one gripe I have with this movie.
Oh boy,
is the little Timmy scene where he fucking latches onto the electrical fence.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And he gets thrown back like 20 feet on his back, and he gets up and he's fine.
He would have been fried immediately.
It's like you get past it because everything else is just damn near perfect, really is. But yeah, it's just, that's something Balin and I both looked at each other, just laughed. Like, and we're like, you know what? It's not going to take away from the film.
No,
and
of course not.
It's kind of something funny to always go back to and like look forward to and just laugh at. But yeah, it's just, the acting is so well done. It's like, if you just think about it, like if you went to this island where this guy created freaking dinosaurs from a mosquito blood sample, pretty much.
Well, it's not even that, right? I mean, put yourself in the shoes of Alan Grant. You know, your entire life you've been studying these creatures that have been extinct for millions of years, and then all of a sudden you see one.
Exactly.
A real one.
Right.
That must blow you away.
Yeah, I just think anyone would be like, what the hell? Like, just, oh my god, that's a dinosaur. And yeah, that's a really good point. That,
I mean, you totally forget that your career as an archaeologist is now rendered, forgive the pun, extinct.
Right.
Because dinosaurs exist again.
Right.
You totally forget about that because you're seeing a dinosaur. Right. It's like it's almost like if you and I saw Superman fly by your window right now.
Right.
You know? Our entire knowledge of superheroes would go out the window because there are ones that actually exist in the real world. All interest in fictional superheroes would leave our minds because there's a real one.
Right. And I love Jeff Goldblum's character too, being kind of the cynical person, the cynical character really in the movie.
What is he, a chaos theorist, right?
Something like that. But he's sort of just, I think, which some of the audience probably is thinking, like, I mean, you're trying to control the uncontrollable.
Right. Life finds a way.
Yeah, and that's another great theme you could delve into and talk hours about. So there's a lot more than just what's on the surface level with this movie.
Right, of course.
That you can look at so many different angles, and you know, it was a very well thought out movie. And again, it's like, what if this happened? It's like, it's hard to argue like events wouldn't play out as they did with these creatures that were extinct millions of years ago that we have literally no knowledge about. I mean, just think of it, like, people make up theories and come to different conclusions just on simple bone fragments, and it's insane. And so it's like, you're seeing that in real life, it just changes your whole perception on it.
I mean, even the pictures of dinosaurs you see in science books and history books,
they're not fully accurate.
No, they're more or less assumptions. I mean, assumptions based on really solid science.
Right,
but,
and like read theories and stuff, which is...
Right.
But yeah, it's just, I think, I don't know, my kind of takeaway from this movie was like, it was very unrealistically realistic.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, this probably couldn't happen, but if it did happen...
But it might.
But if it did, it's like, it's really like, this probably is how it would play out.
Yeah.
And
actually, you know what? Sorry, you finished, but I did think of one problem I have with this movie.
I'm basically done, but yeah, it's just, and seriously, in my opinion, I think it's, in Spielberg's just unbelievable slate of films, I think it's sort of a, not underrated so much, but it kind of gets lost in the wayside because of...
Kind of gets buried under things like E.T. and Jaws.
Yes, I think though, when you think of it, because of its successors and its sequels, it did not have that same feel, and they kind of got it got overdone, and it's one of those movies where you kind of think of, it's like, obviously they saw how well it did in the box office, everyone's in it for making money, making profit. Movie production companies, everyone, directors, producers, what have you.
Yeah.
But it's one of those movies I kind of think of. I'm like, man, it would just be perfect. It was just that movie. You know, just one.
Well, yeah,
because
narratively, you got to imagine there's somebody out there thinking, like, bringing dinosaurs back the first time didn't work very well, but if I do it, it'll work fine.
Right.
And it's not.
Exactly. Seriously.
You know what I mean?
Seriously.
How many times can you bring back dinosaurs before you finally realize it's a bad idea?
I think even just if you didn't have those direct sequels and you maybe had one like spin-off or a sort of reboot with like Jurassic World, which again critically was not that great, but I'm just saying I think like I could live with like one sequel,
with
one
remake,
Jurassic
one reboot.
World. Right. But
Not
it's
three.
just I don't know. There's an audience for it, so it's like I can't ever fault people for trying to take advantage of a situation in any circumstance where they see an opportunity to make money.
Hollywood's a business, so you can't fault them for any way of making money.
But go back to what you were saying, because I really am interested in hearing this negative thought you have, a critique of the movie.
Yeah, and it's not so much a critique on the movie as it is a critique on Universal Studios in Florida. I went to Universal Studios, the theme park, with my parents a few years ago. It was during spring break. And we went to Jurassic Park. We actually walked around the wrong way, so I spent this whole time looking for the gate, and next thing you know, I'm looking at the back of it. Like, oh, okay. So I went out and went back in.
Yeah.
And they had the music playing. It was fantastic. But anyway, I went to the gift shop, and I thought, oh my God, wouldn't it be the greatest thing if they had the little walking stick with the mosquito and the amber, or even the mosquito and the amber like a pin or a necklace or a keychain or whatever. And
I remember you telling me that when you got back.
There wasn't.
I was shocked.
There was nothing.
Because that's like the most visible prop throughout the movie.
Right. They always have it in any shot that they need to. And I would have spent a good amount of money on one of those things to hang on my wall when I got home. Exactly. It would have been fantastic. But again, that's not a gripe in the movie. It's a gripe on Universal Studios. And really, it's not an issue at all because it doesn't matter. I still love the movie.
It's really unlike you to buy like a useless toy that you're just gonna hang up on your wall or put in your room somewhere just to look at. You never do that.
Sarcasm is palpable. Oh my God. But a couple more things I want to add, and then we can wrap it up. This is a totally minor thing, but after Jeff Goldblum goes through the whole T-Rex thing, and they like drive him to the underground place, he's like, there's that one shot of him with his shirt half unbuttoned, and he's like lying on one arm, and it's been coined the sexy Jeff Goldblum. It's fantastic. It's very funny to the point where I think it was like last year or the year after or the year before maybe, Lego made the big Jurassic Park gate with the T-Rex and everything.
Yep.
And the Jeff Goldblum figure actually had his shirt half unbuttoned, which was very funny to me.
Attention to detail.
Right. And I know sexy Jeff Goldblum has become kind of like a meme almost. I think it's incredibly funny. One of my favorite lines in the movie, which they actually echo in the Lego movie, which would probably be an honorable mention for my top 10.
Yeah.
Is Sam Jackson, right before he's about to turn the power back on, he goes, "Hold on to your butts," and then he turns it on. And it's just so stupid, but it's so funny. The absolute dominance of the T-Rex in this movie, and I believe it's also echoed in Jurassic World, where no matter how many other dinosaurs you throw in there, the T-Rex is always going to be king of the hill, top dog.
Right.
Which...
Seriously, I don't know about you. It's again gonna sound kind of dumb and corny, but whenever someone says dinosaur, I first think of a T-Rex. Yeah, seriously,
always.
It's just
always.
Even before seeing this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. I mean, that's a very good point.
Right.
It's definitely the apex predator in that world.
Apex predator, exactly. And it's such like a minor detail, but honestly, you've got to have one dinosaur that rules them all in this kind of setting, because obviously the humans are not top dogs. They're not number one, because the humans spend the entire movie playing the hunted.
Yeah.
When they go through the woods and the forest and everything. So by having like an ultra dominant hunter, fantastic. Really gives that thing to worry about, thing to look out for. The final note I have here is it uses a little bit of horror movie tropes, even though it's not a textbook horror. Yeah. You could say that it is a little bit.
There's a lot of suspenseful and uneasy scenes.
Same with Jaws. You could argue that's kind of a horror movie.
Yeah.
But it uses the trope of the other. It's something that horror does all the time. The other being something that's taboo, not normal,
right.
Something that you don't really know much about. Something like
Yep.
Michael Myers or Freddy
point.
Krueger. You know, they're the other. They're the ones that don't fit in.
You really can't or don't know how to fight that.
Right. 95% of the time, the other is the one that's doing the killing or the murdering or the violence of any kind. And they really take the other and they put it on the dinosaurs. But they mask it a little bit in terms of people thinking, you know, like, yeah, I know about the other, I know about the dinosaurs, when in reality, nobody knows anything about dinosaurs in this movie because they do things, they evolve. Like, I mean, even like Jeff Goldblum says, life finds a way. You know, the female dinosaurs adapted and evolved on the fly to make sure that they could have offspring and have naturally reoccurring dinosaurs, so that the eggs could hatch at certain times. And it's really, the other is masked in this sort of false pretense of knowledge. And again, I think that plays into a little bit of the deeper meaning of the movie. But we're not here to talk about deeper meanings of the movie so much as we are to talk about my top 10 list. And with that brings us to the end of number 6.
Yeah, pretty solid list. Kind of expected. You know, talk about these movies a lot. So.
Yeah. I mean, you knew.
Yeah, definitely.
You knew what they were.
Definitely looking forward to, you know, hearing the rest of your top 10.
Get spicy. It's predictable, but spicy. I mean, predictable to you, obviously.
But yeah, I think that's a solid place to end. So, thank you everyone for tuning in again, listening. One of the next episodes will be my 10 through 6. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Again, thanks for listening, and
catch you in the next one.